Ooh. See if it works. Hey folks, it's Shannon here, and I'm switching things up and reviewing a book! And it doesn't even look like a book, does it? It looks like some weird non-book book thing. Okay. I'm going to review Divergent by Veronica Roth, and this is my cute little Kobo. It's actually the first book I read on my Kobo. I don't think on Planet Shannon TV I did the library loot. I think that was back on my Movie Moxie channel. Anyway, I love reading. I always have in different times in my life, but I've also had mass expanses where I haven't been reading, and currently I'm kind of trying to get out of a non-reading scenario because it's just I used to go to my library all the time, and then that became too challenging. So after a lot of consideration and weighing lots of things, I decided to go with a Kobo because I can borrow stuff from the library, and you can get old stuff for free, and you can read it. And so Divergent is officially the first book I read on my Kobo. So that's sort of like reading with Shannon, like background. But so Divergent. So this is a young adult novel, YA novel, and it's the first in a trilogy. The second one's already out, and the third one comes out later this year. I won't say the titles. I kind of figured out where the story's going just from the titles. And I was really drawn to this book. It's a dystopic setting, and I tend to like that. If you're not familiar with dystopic, think for films, Logan's Run, or Hunger Games for more contemporary version. It means it looks perfect, but it isn't perfect. It's a very generic way to describe dystopic. But it's a really interesting world of 5 factions. One, the Adaptation, which are the selfless, Amnesty, who are peaceful, Candor, who are truthful, Dauntless, who are brave, and Erudite, who are intelligent. And we follow Beatrice, who comes of age, and everyone when they're 16, they decide which faction they choose. Will they choose the faction that they were born into, or will they choose a different faction? So, fascinating idea. Like, come on. Like, I was like, are you kidding me? I was drawn right into this book. Just weird, separate society, and they live together, and then like the erudite, like the intelligent people do all the like intelligent things. I can't remember exactly how they have it. They have it like the Adaptation, the selfless run the government because it's for other people, and the dauntless, the brave, serve as security and they protect the people. So it's very black and white, but like black and white of 5 different kinds. And for me, I think that's a fascinating idea, but I'm not sure I buy into that it could work. So, but that made the idea of the book interesting. Now, being a YA novel, it follows, a sort of Beatrice going, into her own in terms of deciding what to do and how that plays out. And I love the setting, but I found her character a little hard to pin down. I didn't always understand her choices, which makes it hard to connect. And a lot of the really, really, really interesting ideas in this book I actually found that felt very familiar from other books. And I don't try to harp on that if it can be retold in a different way. And, I think I mentioned that in my I don't know if it was in my Star Trek review, that I don't try and harp on, completely original ideas, but when sort of the really fascinating, moments or ideas are all feel familiar, then it's kind of like, ugh. It doesn't mean it's not interesting and accessible, and it's certainly as a young adult novel, if there are ideas you haven't heard of, this is a great way to experience them. So I thought that was cool, and it was a quick read. It was a page turner. I was just, I can't do that because it's, like I said, it was like this on my Kobo. And so that was cool, but I wasn't quite there. It reminded me a lot of Ender's Game, which is one of my favorite novels, so that made it a little hard, when you get into the thick of things. It's a little hard when you're like there, oh yeah, oh, familiar, oh yeah, that's gonna go there, oh yeah. So it kind of lost me a little bit along the way. Although I am still really interested in it, and I will continue reading the series, and it is being adapted into a film, which was one of my key reasons for reading it. I'm a big fan of following the book to film process, and for me it's very key to try and read the book before the casting of the film is announced, because once the casting of the film is announced, then I start to see the actors. And I did hear one person for this one while I was reading it, but I didn't somehow I managed. I think it was I had already started, so, and I actually figured out some other stuff accidentally. So I hate spoilers, especially with stuff that when it can be like books and books and books, worth of story and interesting unveilings. And also I read a lot of young adult, but I think right now I just feel like they can only hold so many themes, and I'm ready for something a little stronger. So, because these themes, I felt like I saw them, and it's like I got them, and there was some repetition, and I was kind of like, and I wasn't connecting to the characters. And usually, if there's at least one thing, like one character or one idea, But I'm curious. Like, I do find the idea of the society interesting, but it was the setting, but not necessarily the biggest focus. So I don't know. Still curious about it. There's a lot of love for the book, and I can see why I got drawn in right away. And I would recommend it if you like dystopic stuff, if you like young adult fiction, you probably already read it. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading. And also, if you're interested in book to film adaptations, over at Before the Dawn, I'll put the link there. And me and Marina did this huge, we're rebranding the podcast as a Lit to Flick podcast, and going bonkers with book to film and book to TV adaptations, and we just released our book to film sort of mega list of titles we're tracking, and we went through this huge list of titles, and only 2 of them fell off the list, which is pretty crazy. I think it was like 40 or so titles. We haven't necessarily read everything, and we won't necessarily read everything. I think there's a couple I'm not going to read, but there's a lot that I am going to try and read. So I'm going to try and review them here as well, just to share what, my thoughts on the book. So let me know if you've read Divergent, if you liked it, if you're interested in it, if you're interested in the film but not the book. It's an interesting trend to track that I've been tracking, all of these adaptations, and it's wild to see many worlds come to life. So, ironically, the next book I started reading was an autobiography, Georges St. Pierre's autobiography, The Way of the Fight. Really enjoying that, and Beowulf. That sort of, I don't know, it was a free download, so I got caught by it. I don't understand, like, any of it. some of it, but I recognize the names from, like, weird scenarios of, like, people I used to game with, so I don't actually see them as a literary character. I think I see it as someone from one of my guilds. It's so weird, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep reading. Always reading. It's a good thing. So, let me know what you think. Divergent? Yes? No? What are you reading? What are you liking? Let me know. Thanks for watching.